Welcome back to In Ohio Country Today, and joining me now is Butch Hendrix, and Butch works for the Kokomo Grain Company, is that right?
Correct.
In Kokomo, Indiana. He's also part of GEAPS, so we're here in beautiful Sandusky, Ohio for the GEAPS convention for the regional, the Seaway Regional. Let's talk a little bit about GEAPS and this organization.
Okay. I've been a member with GEAPS for about 5 years now, and it's been a very educational and great group to work with. I am a member of the EPC committee for the exchange, so we do all the educational planning for the exchange in Minneapolis this year, Columbus next year. I've been with this group now for probably 4 years on the EPC committee.
Let's remind our viewers out there what GEAPS stands for.
Grain and Elevator Processing Society. We've concentrated a lot on the safety side of things at the GEAPS Exchange. We also cover a lot of operations style. There's online trainings. There is also safety training that you can do online. GEAP membership is a benefit because it actually does a lot of education around the whole entire business.
Well, Butch, it's that time of the year. Of course, our farmers are getting ready to get back out in the fields. But by the time harvest rolls around, there's going to be a lot of activity on the farm when it comes to handling grain. And GEAPS is there to talk about safety, and that's what we want to hear from you today. Let's talk a little bit about some of the safety tips and some of the things that you can pass along to our farmers to remind them the hazards and the dangers that are involved when handling grain.
Obviously, whenever we go into grain bins, that's probably one of our most opportune times to get injured or killed. Lockout tagout is probably your best. Take all the reclaim conveyors out so we don't have anybody removing grain while you're inside. Never go in alone. Make sure you have somebody there with you. Tie off the lifeline so you can't be sunk into the grain. And there's just a lot of areas that can be a problem. I mean, anything from crusted grain to avalanche to just trying to get the clumps to break up before you go into your sumps.
You know, Butch, when we're talking about handling grain, it's more than just in the bin. It's there are a lot of different areas where grain can be a hazard. Let's talk about that and what to expect and how to respond in case if something happens.
Yes, we have. We've had a couple of situations where kids have been in grain carts and the grain has been put in on top of them from a combine or from a grain wagon. Obviously, the operator didn't know the kids were in there, so keeping track of them, make sure nobody is in areas where we don't want them. We've had a couple of, in Indiana, we've had one situation where a father ran over his son as he was trying to get on a combine as he was turning the corner to head back the other way. Didn't see him and run him under the wheels, so that was a fatality as well. Recently, there has been another one in my old stomping grounds in Illinois where a subject was caught in a sweep auger, so we had an entanglement there. That guy lived, but he's seriously injured. So there's a number of different ways we can get injured.
You know, Butch, too, one of the things we have to remind our farmers out there, it doesn't matter what age you are or what your experience is, you know, accidents happen. And we've seen people who have been born and raised on the farm and in healthy condition. And these kind of situations, just that engulfment, we've done demonstrations, we've seen demonstrations where it just moves so quickly that you can't expect yourself to dig yourself out of a situation like that. So being prepared and doing the right thing is important, but it affects every age and experience, doesn't it?
That is correct. We've had a number of engulfments happen to subjects under the age of 20 years old. And the other one seems like it's above 55 to 60 year range. If you're getting in a grain bin and you're going to be sinking almost to your knees anyway, when you break that clot up and it starts pulling down, you have about 2 to 3 seconds to get out of there. And I'm not really sure that a world-class athlete would be able to run through that grain to be able to get back to that ladder. So that's some of the areas where we're running into situations. And we've seen a big push on getting grain bin rescue tubes out, which is phenomenal in my opinion. We have actually donated, we're getting ready to donate number 4 and 5 this year. And with that being said, the other thing you have to keep in mind is that person has to be partway out of the grain before you can use that grain bin rescue tube. If they're fully engulfed, that's pretty much useless until you get down to them.
You know, Butch, one of the things that we talk about is harvest season and where grain engulfment can be a problem, but our farmers are dealing with grain every month of the year, aren't they?
That is correct. We see a big surge of grain coming into the elevators from like January until about May. And with that, especially when we have a harvest similar to what we had this year, back in 2009 we had one very similar. There was 59 grain engulfments in 2010. And that is where a major push came in when we had some teenagers over in Illinois who were 2 out of 3 were killed in a grain bin. And that's where the big push came in. One was 14 and one was 19.
Well, Butch, you know, one of the things, too, that we have to remind everybody of is the fact that GEAPS is not only there for the elevator personnel and also for the farmer, but you guys do a lot of training with first responders as well, don't you?
That is correct. I go out and I've done training all over the United States for grain bin rescue, and also I talk to farmers, and I do a presentation where we talk about the dangers of farming, a lot of aspects, even the animals, and the manure pits and that type of stuff. A manure pit's just as dangerous as a grain bin in some areas. So, we talk about a lot of different things, and to get the message out to the farm community is one of our big pushes, not only in our elevators.
You know, Butch, when we're talking about safety on the farm, it's paramount that our producers out there remember to have some kind of communication when you're out there working all the time, and be in touch and learn and train yourself so that you're not putting yourself in harm's way. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. Always make sure you have a cell phone. There's not very few areas nowadays where there's not a cell phone signal. Again, never, if you're doing anything that's remotely dangerous, make sure you get somebody to come out with you. I mean, I'm guilty myself. It's hard to go ask somebody to come up and give us a hand doing something. We're not accustomed to that. We're accustomed to doing it ourselves. So, but there's times I'm not sure that anybody has a load of grain that's worth their life.
Butch Hendrix has been our guest from Kokomo, Indiana. And we've been talking about GEAPS. We want to thank our good friends at Salina Insurance for helping us sponsor this particular segment. And we'll be back with more in Ohio Country today, right after this.
Our farm department is committed to providing ag professionals the products, coverages, and peace of mind needed to run a successful operation. With our home office located in the heart of farm country, many of us have first-hand experience when it comes to farming, and we know how to take out the risk. Under one policy, we can provide total protection of your investment, from your home and barns to your equipment and livestock. Come join us and experience the Salina difference.